All right. So what do you want to do first? You want to talk about Clark and the record? You want to talk about the press conference?
I think
you want to talk about the you can't see me?
To ensure that we do not forget anything that we need to discuss, let's go in chronological order. That is what I suggest.
Okay, chronological order starts with the game, right? And then I guess what happened after the game is what happened after the game. So there were, I mean, first of all, insanity. I'd never seen that building like that before. It was so unique. It was, I mean, there was, I think they announced 15,000, over 15,000. Right. I believe that there was actual a little under 14,000.
Okay.
In the building. I don't know what you'd say the split was. What would you say from watching on TV? Because Josh, I tried to think about it for a little bit, and then it was hard for me to take it all in.
It looked like 30-40% Iowa fans.
Yeah, I'd say that's about right.
Yeah.
So let's say 35% Iowa, 65% Nebraska. When they got going, they were starting their "Let's Go Hawks," and Nebraska fans just immediately tried to drown them out with "Go Big Reds," and that was pretty good. That was a battle that was waged throughout the game, and she got her. I guess we'll start in the third quarter when Amy Williams got a technical, and I think at that point I was up 10 or 12 in the game, and they've kind of been in control for a little while. Nebraska, they're just keeping Nebraska at arm's length, right? Mm-hmm. And they get the technical, it's like, ooh, this might get a little bit rocky. This might get a little bit out of control. And
But it ended up being like when a manager gets tossed.
She gets the first two free throws to shoot the technical free throws and cans them both. And then she's got two more free throws because they're in the bonus at the end of the third quarter, and she missed the first one out of the two, so she missed the third out of the fourth. And then, what we do is we play sound effects, and sometimes it's the big foghorn when the other team misses free throws. Sometimes it's what you heard, wah, 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 wah. Sometimes it's Homer Simpson dope. Sometimes it's the Windows where you can't press the button thing. Okay. There's stuff that we sort of mix through throughout the game. And so she missed, and the wah, 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 wah played. And admittedly, I think it was probably a tad late, but they got the ball back to her in extremely quick timing. And so the sound effect was just kind of wrapping up by the time she went up for her second free throw. Caitlin was asked about, just to flash forward a little bit, Caitlin was asked about it after the game, and she said she didn't notice, and she totally slept the whole thing off, as you should. And Lisa Bluder right away was like, what the hell is going on? I mean, but it wasn't in that tone, Josh. I mean, she came down my way, and she was trying to find the person who was responsible for this. And it's like, I can't believe you guys do this. I can't believe you guys play music. Everybody at the table is looking around like, I'm sorry, And she just would not let it go.
This is a Wendy's.
She got in the official's ear. And then I believe there was a situation where play stopped just a short amount of time later, and she kept on getting after and she just wouldn't let it go. And she just would not drop it. And, this is step one to Lisa Bluder is perpetually aggrieved. All right. And so Nebraska does a great job in the fourth quarter. They basically box and won Caitlin Clark. I saw that there was some increasing discussion about this, but what happened in the fourth quarter?
Iowa only scored 10 points.
Iowa scored 10 points.
That's incredible.
Caitlin scored 0. Mm-hmm. She had 31, right? 31.
Yes.
That last free throw that she made, the second of the 4, was the last point that she had in the game. We'll bring up Caitlin a couple more times here, but was it Iowa letting off the gas with her wanting to set the record at home? Because if it was, it's coaching malpractice, and it cost them a game. Mm-hmm. It cost them a basketball game.
Early in the third, Benetti had mentioned it a couple times throughout the game that if they can win the game and set the record at home. They would like to do it that way. That's what Bluder said before the game. But
if that was into your head in that moment in a game that is clearly still up for grabs,
there's no way
it's coaching malpractice. Yeah. It's just straight up coaching malpractice. So like you can't think that way if you're the Iowa coach. Maybe that seeped in a little bit, maybe not. I don't know. If they were letting off the gas with her, then that is a disgrace. Like that's really bad coaching. Mm-hmm. It cost them a game. It might have cost them a seed line. It might have cost them a 1 seed.
The way Caitlin Clark plays basketball, it seems like she would like on the court go, nope, not listening to my coach. I'm going to try and win this game.
I tend to agree with that, considering she was arguing many times with her coach about how to handle her during a game.
I'm going to Willie Beeman this.
But Nebraska did a great job defensively. They junked her. They box and wonder basically for the fourth quarter. And, they missed a whole bunch of shots, and Nebraska just kept chipping. Got a couple threes. Markowski hit 2 big ones. Nisley hit a big one. Like they just kept chipping. And then all of a sudden there's a minute left in the game and you're like, oh my God, this is really here.
It's doable.
And so I think it was kind of this slow, like, maybe they were trying to let off the gas with her to not get her the record because they wanted to do it at home. And it was unclear when that switch should be flipped back to Caitlin Clark has to go mode. Mm-hmm. Because it doesn't matter if you set it at that point. You gotta win the ball game, right? You would think that would take precedent over everything. So that got a little murky in there. And, Jazz Shelley gets a shot to take the lead by 1 point with 30 seconds left, cans it, calling out her defense, going back on defense before they call the timeout. Face guard. No.
Face guard. Definitely nothing else.
Trust me. That is absolutely their defensive play call. They do it all the time. Now,
sure, Connor.
I'm telling you, and once again, I said this during the crossover, Jazz Shelley is like the nicest person on planet Earth. Like, she meant it what she said on Twitter. But she's also a competitor, right? She did not do that to taunt anybody. I can guarantee you that. She did not do that to taunt anybody. But did she want to win that game so badly? Yeah,
you betcha.
Yeah. So don't get after her for the taunting thing. She wasn't taunting anybody, but don't underestimate her competitiveness either. Right? They wanted that game bad,
sure,
and they knew what it meant. They knew that beating Iowa basically cements your case to go to the NCAA tournament. Now they got to work on the seeding, and they got a tough road game against Ohio State coming up.
But national TV, you get to wreck the party. You get to defend your home court.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think I don't want to speak for everybody here, but like,
please do though.
No, I'm not. I'm going to make this clear. Actually, I'm not speaking for everybody, but I think there was a sense throughout the week on the game was obviously so much about Caitlin Clark, and there's a matter of business with this. And I've always said, hey, like this is kind of what happens when you're beholden to television. And this doesn't happen a lot in women's sports. It doesn't happen a lot in the women's basketball game. It's our first, kind of experience with it. But so many things got changed throughout the week, whether it was the timing, what would happen in the contingency plan if Caitlin got the record.
Which you talked about in the crossover, but
I'm telling you right now, there was too many cooks in that kitchen. Mm-hmm. Like I had what I had if indeed it did happen, but our people were constantly communicating during the game with what should happen and when. And this has already been a conversation involving so many people throughout the week. And it never ended up happening, but there was a sense there was just a sense that was about that, like, is this even a basketball game anymore? Like, what is this? Like, what are we doing here? Are we just supposed to lay out the red carpet for her? They got jobs to do. Mm-hmm. They got to win a basketball game, because if they don't, they're fighting for their lives to get to the NCAA tournament. And if they don't make the NCAA tournament, they might get fired, right? Like, they have jobs to do. And so that was like a real present feeling, I think for the week for them. And so like there was added motivation in that category as well.
I was really amazed at the number of Husker fans, like in the first half and even into the third quarter a little bit, who were amazed that the broadcast was focusing on Iowa and Caitlin Clark. Like, that game's not on Big Fox because of the Nebraska-Iowa rivalry.
No,
let's not be stupid here. Let's not be ignorant about what's happening.
It's understood why
it's the Caitlin Clark show.
It is understood why it's happening, but once again, like it just became not a basketball game.
Mm-hmm.
It became not about a basketball game at a certain point, and some of that is due to the environment in the building too. All the Iowa fans, it was just so different, and so yeah, I think there was added motivation for Nebraska to be
Absolutely.
like, yeah, we
let's
want
stick it to them.
Yeah, and they of course, as they do, they're like, oh, we weren't thinking about Caitlin, and they were truly. I think they were trying their best throughout the entire week. They're like, we don't want to think about this. I think they were asked their opinion on how some things would go, and like they didn't want. There were some people who wanted if Caitlin Clark had set the record in Lincoln on Sunday during the game, to stop the game and do a video and a presentation at midcourt and all of that. And like, if I hear that and I'm the coach at Nebraska, I'm like, what the bleep are we doing? Like, why? Okay, cool. Pay your respects at the game, say congratulations, and then let's try and win a basketball game. Right? So it became totally not about that. And then all of a sudden, with 90 seconds left, it became about that.
It did.
Right? And so like everything went perfect. Everything went perfect for Nebraska, and I didn't have to get stuff thrown at me because I said something wrong or said something that would make somebody angry or something like that. The game is testy. It always is. It's chippy. They have a lot of familiarity with each other. Caitlin doesn't like Nebraska. I've said this constantly throughout the last couple of weeks. It's obvious. And she reacts so emotionally to things, and her coach reacts so emotionally to things that it gets so hypercharged in there. And when they play, not only is there 16,000 people there, but it's also hyper emotionally charged. And then you're dealing with a split, with a ratio of Iowa fans and a ratio of Nebraska fans, and all of these things just bubble up during a game, and it becomes a highly contested situation, and that leads us to after the game. And it's about 20 minutes after the game. Nebraska had won. They had stormed the court, and Jazz Shelley had made her
content.
Jazz Shelley had made her clutch free throws. Caitlin Clark took. I got the screenshot out there, by the way, at the end of the game, for the end of the game, at Connor Happer on Twitter for my "We Are Doing a Radio Show Today" picture. Look at the shot that Caitlin Clark put up, down by 1 with 23.9 seconds left in the game. Look at where she took it from, and look at who she was guarded by.
Not a very high IQ basketball play. The Indiana Fever got to think twice about drafting her number 1.
She had her own teammate who she had just got the handoff from in her face. She had Jazz. She had Jazz in her face, and then and Potts was on the help.
Mm-hmm.
And she just 40-foot hucked it
from the FBN
down by
FNBO
1
logo.
Down by 1 with 24 seconds left in the game.
You couldn't do a 2-for-1 there. So
you want to say Nebraska didn't have an effect on the outcome of this thing because Iowa let off the gas, like whatever that conversation was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, watch that play again. She got so emotionally charged in that moment. She's like, yeah, I'm taking a shot to take a 2-point lead with 20 seconds left. That sounds like a great idea. It's a horrible shot.
Well advised.
And Nebraska made all their free throws and they finished it out. Anyway, going to after the game. I got a couple texts here that we'll get to. After the game, Nebraska won. Everybody stayed safe in the court storming, a very light court storming, might I say, from Nebraska faithful, but it was
there were so many Iowa people.
There's so many Iowa people. But 20 minutes passed after the game, and nobody had showed up at the press conference yet. You're like, okay, this is kind of normal, I guess. It was an emotional loss for them and an emotional win for Nebraska. The interviews on the court lasted 5-10 minutes, and everybody finally cleared out, and I got to move on to do the actual stuff after a real life basketball game. And, Nebraska came down the hall, the Nebraska players, Potts and Markowski and Jazz all came down the hall, and they were like, okay, let's, they're going to do their interview now. And they were running the room, and Jeff Grease, who's Nebraska SID, he's running. He's like, yeah, this might be kind of disjointed. I guess we'll do Nebraska first, and we'll see what happens when Iowa gets here. Now, those words were the kiss of death, obviously, but it was known that, like, hey, we're doing this kind of out of order, so just bear with us, right? Like, that's what basically Nebraska was asking. Just bear with us. And what do you know? Bluder and co. show up. Door was open. She didn't care who heard her. She goes, this is BS. This is not Big Ten protocol. What is this place? They play music while we shoot free throws. There it is. Once again, perpetually aggrieved. And, this is not Big Ten protocol. This is BS.
Imagine being that mentally soft.
Exactly. And so Coach Bluder decides, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm leaving. Goodbye. And it was said outside. Somebody said we had a flight to catch. I thought that was Caitlin at first, but she handled things really well. I don't want to throw her under the bus for anything. Obviously, I don't appreciate sometimes how she is so demonstrative on the court. But when she gets in front of the media, she's really good. And she when she gets in front of the media, she's very supportive of her teammates, and she seems genuinely happy to be in the spotlight that she's in. And
every time I've ever seen her asked a question about something that, based on her words, could blow up a controversy and create a firestorm, she has always went the other way and said, nope, not a big deal. I'm fine.
And so when Lex and Jazz and Nat get done with their press conference, they walk out, and Caitlin Clark and Kate Martin are standing there patiently waiting. But Lisa Bluder is gone. She decides, I'm not doing anything today. And so Caitlin Clark and Kate Martin take the room, and we move on with our day. And then Amy comes in after that, but we never hear from Lisa Bluder again.
And then we all go home and watch the Super Bowl.
As I've been told, there is no Big Ten protocol. There is no official rule for who goes first in a press conference and when you go first and the time limit that you have after a game. In most of my experience, obviously this game was bigger and different, so it's expected that the visiting team will show up. But most of the games that happen at Pinnacle Bank Arena on the women's side, the visiting team is not available. They go to their locker room, they hop on the bus, and they leave. They don't show up to the press conference. Obviously, Iowa is different, and it's expected that they do show up. Which just drives home the point. There is no protocol. She's shouting about protocol. There is no protocol. There just isn't. And so once again, it's just expected, hey, we all Midwest handshake this thing and say, hey, look, they got the room. They're going to use the room. It'll be about 6 minutes. Do you mind just hanging on? And somebody says, we got a flight to catch. No, you don't. You have a charter. They'll wait for you. And by the way, I stay in the arena for probably at the bare minimum 25 to 30 minutes after every press conference had gotten done, after Amy, the last one, had gotten done. Guess who hadn't left yet? Iowa.
Wow.
The bus is still there.
Interesting.
So I must not have had the flight to catch, right? My critique on Iowa is that they don't carry themselves like a program who is nationally relevant. they're really full of themselves. Like, I mean, it's really, I guess it's pretty simple that way. They're kind of born on third base. They got this whole Caitlin Clark thing going for them. They think they're the bleep. As Ice Spice would say, you ain't even the fart.
Oh.
I didn't have to throw that line in there. But like
Jason Kelsey. Wait, so I'm the fart?
Good meme. They really think they've done something. They really think they're really cool. And some of that is just the attention that they get. But man, when something doesn't go their way, and admittedly with the music thing, like with the sound effects thing, like it was borderline, of course. Like sometimes bounces don't go your way in basketball games, and sometimes you get bad calls, and sometimes you get calls, right? Like it's the ebbs and flows of this entire thing. You got 6,000 of your own fans probably in the building, and we're sitting here complaining about every little thing that happens. Every little thing. It just permeates throughout that team. And it's obviously started by their head coach, who just can't let it down. She thinks she's God's gift. And I don't know. So I don't. This is all me personally speaking, by the way. I don't appreciate really how they handle themselves in adverse situations. That's all. Any questions?
I don't have any.
Okay, good.
I'm sure the audience does.
Travis says Iowa basketball coaches are Charmin soft. That was my takeaway. Chance says maybe they missed their flight, Connor. You ever think of that? No. The flight doesn't leave without them. That's the beauty of a charter.
Everybody on?
It's actually really cool that way. You ever talk to John Bishop about what it's like to fly on the charter planes? It's pretty sweet. They just wait until you're there, and then they just go.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, and then Travis said, there's an Iowa media member who was quote unquote adding full context when he was not even in the building. Right. Which I'm not sure how you could have full context when you're not there. There was a couple Iowa reporters who were there and do follow the team, and there was another one who likes to tweet about it and not be there. I don't know what he's got going on, but
watching the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I guess watching the Super Bowl. That's good. But yeah, it was not full context. It was not full context. Doug wonders, was Tominaga in the building watching? He likes to put him up there from 40 feet. I didn't see Casey, but most of the men's basketball team was there.
Matt Rule was there.
Matt Rule was there. Matt Rule's daughter was in the halftime cheer clinic. Matt Rule went full dad yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Up in the front row by the courtside seats, videotaping his daughter on his phone doing a cheer routine at halftime.
Awesome. He's just like us.
It was a classic. I tried to get a picture, but I was blocked off by too many things. It was a classic dad move. He really dadded it up yesterday. But yeah, it was a spectacle. It was the whole thing. And I'm glad it's over. I'm glad Nebraska won. I'm glad Nebraska won all of those
Best
things.
possible scenario for Nebraska, right? You win the game. The record is not set.
You don't have to deal with any of that stuff.
Yeah. A lot of people saying Casey was there.
Good. Very good. Very good.
Good for Casey.
Good for Casey. I saw most of the men's basketball team there. I didn't actually see Casey. There was many people to see, though. All the celebs were out.
Many luminaries in attendance.
Did anybody watch the Caitlin Clark TikTok cam?
I did not. I watched the Big Fox cam.
That's probably good.